Divine and royal greetings, family. I am Shayola Benta, co-host, along with the other co-host, Latoya Davis. Hopefully, Shantae will be able to join us. It has been a touch and go situation. We are getting it done. But this week, this month, for the whole month, we will be discussing breastfeeding and its many, many aspects. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Welcome back. We say welcome back. And we're happy that you are here with us on another Friday. Hey, Coach Shantae in the house. So this month, again, we are discussing breastfeeding and many aspects. And we've kind of figured out our groove as it relates to going live. So at the beginning of the month, we'll do an overview of what we'll be discussing for the month. And then because we are one, mind, body, and spirit, we'll look at those aspects individually for subsequent sessions or broadcasts. So I hope that everyone is able to see us and see us clearly. We totally got a notification that we were reported several times and that our account on Facebook may be suspended. So hopefully, we don't do or say anything that will get us suspended. We don't know. Do y'all know? Because the last time I checked, we didn't know. Say it again, Coach.
It seemed fine. I can see things, but
I can see things. Okay, awesome. Things can be seen. So I just want to say shout out to you and thank you for sharing the breastfeeding book with us. The complete breastfeeding guide, I think is what it's called. And Coach Shantae sent us the digital. So I'll share that and just get into it. So have you all breastfed? What was that experience like? So whoever wants to share first, have at it.
I'll let you start off, Coach Latoya.
Okay, yes, I breastfed my daughter for 27 months, and it was a very interesting experience because growing up I did not see women breastfeed. I know only of women formula feeding, so this was a brand new experience for me just in general. And as I embarked on my holistic wellness journey and eating plant-based, I of course wanted to look at more holistic ways of like raising my future children. So in that I was able to see my peers actually breastfeed their children that were plant-based. So that opened up the vision of me doing so in the future. So once I so that was my intention, of course, before I even thought about having children intentionally. But then once I had my child intentionally, that's when I was like, I really do want to breastfeed. I want to do everything natural, holistic. And so when I did become pregnant, I was educated by my midwife and also a lactation consultant. I also had that person. She helped me a lot. so that was my journey. I just did a lot of research. I just read up on things, and that book that was mentioned, that's the book that like really solidified it. I was like, yes, my midwife recommended that to me. And so that was the intention. So I did everything that I felt like I needed to do to prepare for that prior to pregnancy. I mean, during my pregnancy. And then um I had my daughter at 39 weeks, something 4 days, and then she came through. I had her through a C-section because she was breached in the hospital that I had her at. They don't do breech vaginal births, and I was originally doing a at home birth, but because of the long time I was in labor for a long time, and so we just decided to go to the hospital, and I had her through C-section, and I was definitely worried and concerned about her the milk coming in and all of that, because she had to also go into NICU for about 9 days because she had increased bilirubin levels. So that really was a concern of mine, because I know that the first 3 days are critical when it comes to breastfeeding. And because she wasn't going to be right near me all the time, then she had to be under the lights with her eyes covered up. And that's to me, I was like, maybe that's part of the reason why she's so curious now, because her first 8 to 9 days of birth, her eyes were covered up. So I didn't like that she was under the lights for jaundice, because what happened was is that my blood type, which is O positive, and her blood type, I didn't know this, but depending on the different blood types, it can be incompatible with the mother. But she wasn't a negative. I'm not a negative blood type, but because of our blood type incompatibility, because I'm an O positive blood type, it made it seem as if her blood was. It made it seem as if her blood was foreign to mine, and so then it was breaking down um, the blood cells. So it caused an increase in her bilirubin levels. So that's what caused the issue with the jaundice. And then me learning how to breastfeed. I wasn't trying to give her any formula in the hospital. If I would have gave her formula, I probably would have had her home earlier. If I would have just gave her the formula. But I was like, no. I was determined, and I pretty much stayed at the hospital the whole 9 days, because I was like, I was so determined just to breastfeed or whatnot. But I'm glad that I did. It definitely was a time for me to really use the voice and to advocate or whatnot, because there was things that was happening at the hospital that made me see how sometimes they encourage the mothers to do things that actually hinder the flow of the breastfeeding if you're not careful. But I'm glad I did it, and it was definitely a learning curve. It was not easy. I did not get I personally didn't get as much sleep because of the way my daughter slept. Like, she liked to sleep in certain ways, and I know sometimes you can breastfeed while sleeping, but she wasn't doing that. So I really didn't really get sleep for a good couple of years, like full night sleep for a good couple of years. So it was a whole commitment and a whole uh, journey, but it was worth it. And she was very healthy, and she grew beautifully. And I did it while eating raw also. So that was a whole experience in itself. I ate a lot. I ate more than I did when I was pregnant. But it was a great bonding experience. I do feel like the way that we engage in each other now is because of having that kind of experience. And I am a high advocate for people that are able to, because some circumstances you have to do it a certain way, or you may not be able to do it at all, depending on the condition. But I encourage it. It benefits the mom, it benefits the baby, and the key thing is about trusting your body and just getting the proper education and support. And I feel like I had that overall, even with the challenges. And I definitely would do it again if I'm meant to have another, God willing, I'm meant to have another, I would definitely do it again, because it's worth it. It's a commitment, but it's definitely worth it.
It is a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It is a commitment. Thank you for
Yeah.
your share. I'm just like, when you said I didn't get a good night's sleep in a few years, I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm digging that. I can see, how that would be so, you know. The commitment is real. The commitment is real. So I have on the screen the book that we have been pulling and reading from. So feel free to, I left it on the authors so that you can see who is responsible for this body of work. And this is the fifth edition, I believe. So, definitely get into it. Coach Shante, what say you as it relates to breastfeeding or not breastfeeding?
So personally, as I have one child, he'll be 12 on the 31st of this month. So it has been 12 years just about since I breastfed a baby. Um, from my personal experience, I definitely feel that going through labor and delivery and breastfeeding is like an amazing experience. I also had a C-section, and the C-section really made me feel disconnected from motherhood in some ways, because I was convinced that, in order to become a mom, you have to go through labor and delivery the natural way. And I had this birth plan in place, and it was supposed to flow a certain way, and things were supposed to happen this particular way. And they didn't happen that way. My son was pressed against his umbilical cord, and every contraction that was pushing him further into the birth canal was causing him to press against his cord and cut off his blood supply. So his heart rate kept dropping. And they decided that a C-section was going to be the best route for us to take. So I got the C-section, and I was determined to breastfeed. Now, at that time, I was not in a natural space like in the way that I am now. Unlike Coach
Mhm.
Latoya, I was 21 years old when my son was born, and I was just really starting to explore life and, what all it had to offer. But I did know that I wanted a natural birth and I wanted to breastfeed, because I had seen throughout the years people in my family breastfeeding. It wasn't anything that was abnormal or something that was frowned upon. Like, it was very much like, oh, I'm from the South. Okay. So the old folks used to say, pull that titty out and feed that baby. So that's what it was. It was never a thing that was frowned upon or shamed. My niece, however, was not breastfed, so I did have the experience of a formula fed baby. She was born, I think, 9 months earlier than my son, and she was formula fed. She had a whole lot of other health issues and things that came up because of the formula, that my son did not experience. So that was one thing that I do know was a big difference between the
Mhm.
breastfed and formula fed babies.
Mhm.
Um, our breastfeeding journey was fairly uneventful. I had I took a lactation consultancy, or I had a lactation consultant, is what I'm trying to say, when he was born. And she walked me through the process of how to properly latch, of the different positions that I could hold him in, and all that kind of stuff. And starting out, it was great. My milk came in at like 2 or 3 days. Um, and it came in. It was not playing no games. I woke up and I was looking like Dolly Parton, and it was pretty much that for the duration. I nursed him for about a year, and if I were to say that I had any regrets, it would be the reason that I stopped breastfeeding. Because I stopped breastfeeding him at a year, not because I desired to,
Mhm.
but because his dad felt like he was old enough to be off the breast, and so he just said, "You need to stop feeding that boy like that." And da 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 da. And at 21, I wasn't as fully in my power as I am now to say,
Mhm.
"Nah, you'll be all right." There's nothing wrong or sexual about nursing a 1-year old. There is still a baby. He's still a toddler. he's still getting benefits from nursing at the breast that he wouldn't get from drinking out of a cup. So you'll be all right.
Mm.
The only other thing that I did want to add to my experience is when they start cutting teeth. Oh, two things. When they start cutting teeth, just you're gonna get bit. It will hurt, but you'll be okay.
Mhm.
Just use your finger, stick right in between the lips, and take them off. And all right, you good. Put your little lanolin or some shea butter or something on there and let it rest. Hand
Mhm.
express milk on that side so you can keep the flow going. And if you need to switch to the other side, switch to the other side. Just be ready. That finger right in the crease. That'll break suction and you can get them right on up off there. But be very
Yeah.
mindful that that is a thing that can happen. My son started cutting teeth at 4 months old.
Wow. Yeah.
Woo! And
I can
he got
imagine.
me one time.
I had a lactation consultant session, and it was like I don't know why, like a ton of bricks. She was like, remember, this is breastfeeding, not nipple feeding, right? So if the baby is just on the nipple, she
Mm-hmm.
was like, you're gonna have all the discomfort, you're gonna have all of the pain. The baby has to really grip the
Mm-hmm.
breast, you know.
You gotta
So
open up the
I was
mouth.
just like, duh, you know. So we did the whole C shape and the U shape, and
Mm-hmm.
how to do those things. But thank you so much for sharing. Something that you said really stuck out as it relates to your child's father. Like, wait a minute now. And then you saying, you know what, I wasn't fully in my power then, to be able to say, well, this is what is best for the baby. Now, of course, we have evolved in time, and, the support or breastfeeding support from husband, dad,
Mm-hmm.
partner is important, but also knowing what is important for the baby is super important. Like, Coach Latoya said, well, I did it. She didn't say 2 years and a few months. She said 27 months. So just having that bonding experience for so
Mm-hmm.
long is pretty awesome. And like you said, there's nothing, our minds have become so warped. There's nothing sexual, about it. It's really about this nourishment and
Mm-hmm.
the nutrients. So I just want to take a moment and say, hey, to all of you that are tuning in live. Feel free to join the conversation. If you want to drop a comment where you're chiming in from, please feel free to do so. So I had posted, 3 things that I learned as it relates to breastfeeding. And I also connected with another lactation specialist last week. And she just dropped like a bomb on me because I have been using, well, one, the flange sides, like if you are pumping
Mm-hmm.
and breastfeeding is a thing. One of my cousins was saying, you know what I regret was not alternating breast pumping and breastfeeding, because her daughter became so like addicted, and in that it was hard for the father to bond because she was always on the breast. It was like, but if she had a bottle, he could feed her. So I'm praying that, that's our case. Like he'll just latch, and
Mm-hmm.
receive the nipple. The other thing was, so while I was pregnant, my mom started a coconut water drive for me, because we were like, coconut is going to get all the breast milk. Woohoo,
Mm-hmm.
coconut water. So
Get you
I was
some.
getting like, right, okay. It's delicious, okay. I was getting cartons of coconut water delivered. And I was just drinking seldomly drinking like just regular water in between. I was just like guzzling them down. And the milk was like, boom, boom. But then I realized I had to end up going to the hospital, right? Because it's just like, when something's not right. The doctor was like, everything is fine. She was like, except for your phosphorus levels. Those are extremely high. And the first thing that came to my mind was that coconut water. Because, like I said, y'all, I probably drank like 5 cases of coconut water within a 3 to 4 week span. So don't overdo it, right? All things in moderation. I was just ODing, so you don't want to do that. Um, the flange size up, that's where I was going with the pump, is necessary to know, right? Because I had a pump, the flange was, this is the part that goes over the nipple and the breast, was way too big. And I learned from the lactation consultant that if it's too big, it's not going to pump correctly, and that can really decrease
Mhm.
your pumping ability. So I I was like almost 10 I think it's millimeters too big. So that was really like a okay, I'm glad to know that. And the other thing was, it was the flange, the water, the coconut water. Oh, and cluster pumping. Now I had kind of really taken to cluster pumping, but it doesn't serve to be super helpful if you're constantly doing it, because your body does need a moment to take a break. And I'm one of those people too, where it's like, okay, I know that I'm going to gain more weight now than I did when I was pregnant, because now I got to eat more and more and more. But one of the things that the lactation specialist said to me was, I was real hyped about this tea, y'all. I still am. I'm drinking it, and I said I'll be the tester, the study, to see how it really works. Because she was like, those teas, those lactation cookies, those things don't really work. And I was like, wait a minute, what are you saying? What? Hold on. But of course, she's like, you go ahead and drink it, and you let me know how it goes. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drink it and see how it goes. I'm not going to post the herbs that I'm using just yet, until I know, okay, this is what
Mhm.
I experienced when I drank this tea. But I'm super excited. I'm super excited for the bonding. I'm excited for just knowing that we do have different blood types. So just all the things, you know, I'm excited. But this education is real. I know that they say
Definitely.
there's no handbook, but when there is a handbook, you might want to latch on to the information. Don't mind
Great
me.
breastfeeding joke. All puns intended. I love it.
Right? Now, one of the things that I do want to get into, because we don't want anyone to feel like, oh, well, I don't want to breastfeed, or I can't breastfeed, and you feel some type of way, right? Because we realize that, and even in reading this guide, there everything is just not for everybody. But it talks about when mom can't, and that usually is she has some type of health issue. So we'll get into, as much as we can, without being, about how that looks. And I just want to say, for the record, we're going to be very specific in who we are talking to. The world is changing, and I get it, but we're talking to a very specific group of people. And, read between the lines, but we are talking to a very specific group of people, because, you know, they're trying to fade us away. And, we are here to stay. So anything, we have about 7 minutes left, a little less than 7 minutes. Anything to add? Oh, and we're striving to get a lactation specialist on, whether it's for mind, body, or spirit segment, to just give us a little bit more education. So ladies, anything additional to add?
I actually did have one other thing to add, because
Mm,
veggie back into the breast flange size, the right breast pump itself makes a huge, 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 huge difference. I had three different breast pumps when Makari was a baby. The first one that I got was a gift at my baby shower. It was a
mm,
single electric breast pump, and I thought that it was working great. I was getting a lot of milk. It was a great experience. And then one day, it just felt like my nipple was on fire. It hurt
mm,
so bad. And then two things happened. The first thing was that I found out that I had thrush. So thrush is a yeast infection that babies can get in their mouth, and it can also get into the nipple as well. So you have to get this stuff that you put in their mouth and on their tongue, and then you put the cream on your nipple, and it gets rid of it. I'm sure there's a natural methodology for that, increasing your coconut milk based yogurt and those types of things to and take probiotics to get your probiotic and prebiotic strains together for breastfeeding. And then with the breast pump itself, when I looked up the reviews, they had like 1 and 2 star reviews. I don't think it had gotten more than 3 stars on any one review. And I realized when you are either shopping for a breast pump for yourself or shopping for a breast pump for someone, do your research. Don't just buy the cheapest thing that you can find just to say you gave somebody a gift and this is a breast pump. And don't do that. Take your time to actually find a good one. The ones that I highly recommend, Medela and Lancino. Those two are absolutely amazing. I was on WIC at the time, and WIC gave me a double electric breast pump. It was a Medela pump, and it was amazing. And then I actually purchased a Lancino double electric breast pump. And either one of those brands are phenomenal. I highly recommend either one of those to breastfeeding moms. I had a cousin who had a baby of 9 months or so after Makari was born, and I gave her my Medela pump. And I literally just 3 years ago now, no, 4 years ago, I 4 years ago gave away my Lancino breast pump, and it still worked just as well as it did when I bought it 12 years ago. So they have staying power if you have one child or you're not sure if you want to have another one, keep your breast pump. I still have my birthing ball in my office. I just pumped it back up a couple of days ago to get some hip opening work done. But whatever resources you invest in for pregnancy, they should definitely sustain you throughout, excuse me, for breastfeeding, should definitely sustain you throughout your breastfeeding journey. And then if you feel led, you can give them to another mama who is on her breastfeeding journey and just cultivate community around it. Because we really are getting pushed further and further into a society where bottle feeding is the norm. And that's not necessarily the best thing for every baby every time. So that's my 2 minutes.
Give thanks. Give thanks. Coach Latoya, anything to add before we close out?
Not really. I feel like we can talk about this more on the next one since it's gonna be an ongoing conversation. But there's also certain things that may be causing more challenge. It may not even necessarily be the way you position the child when they're breastfeeding, but it could be that they may have a lip tie or a tongue tie. So sometimes they may have to have surgery to get that done. I know that was a potential concern when my daughter was like maybe her first visit. The pediatrician was like, she looks like she has a slight tongue tie or whatnot. And I was like, to me, I was like, really? Because I wasn't having any trouble or whatnot. And then I had to determine whether or not is this something really to do. But she was fine as far as the breastfeeding went. But that is, that can lead to other things in the future too, as far as their speaking or all the things or whatnot. So if it's like a really strong one, or if you see somebody with a lisp or something, they more than likely have like a tongue tie. So that's other things that to consider too.
Yeah, I look forward to diving into the conversation a little more throughout the month. So definitely come back with us next week, Friday. If this is you found value here, we ask that you share it with family and friends or a mama or dad that may need to hear it. And if you would like to journey with us through our fall, autumn equinox detox, definitely visit our website. It's down there on the ticker. the emeraldgreencollective.com. We'll have our kickoff at the end of the month, but the journey starts at the beginning of September. So we'll go for 21 days, giving you all that we have. So we hope that, again, you found value here, and we hope to again see you next week, Friday. I always have to think about what day? Friday. And we say peace, love, and wholeness, y'all.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.